I've looked this universe over, from Wackanackasaki to Dover, and now that we have met, how sweet it seems. I love you more the more I know you, and it only goes to show you, you meet the nicest people in your dreams. Yes, 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 you meet the nicest people in your dreams. What I say. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Welcome, everybody, to Village Preservation's 44th annual meeting and 34th annual Village Awards. And thank you, Buck and a Quarter Quartet, for starting off us in such great style. What a way to start. Thank you. My name is Trevor Stewart, and it is my pleasure and honor to serve as president of this great organization. Firstly, a commercial. Please take a moment to silence cell phones and any other electronic devices. How many times have we heard that? I now call the meeting to order and call upon our secretary, Mr. Alan Sperling, to confirm that we have a quorum present in person or by proxy so that we may proceed with the official business of the meeting. Thank you, Alan. Before we get down to business, I want to thank those who've made this evening possible. Cooper Union is our host for the third row in a year, and I've just been told I'm speaking from the lectern where Abraham Lincoln actually spoke. We're thrilled to be back at this historic Great Hall. Thank you, and special thanks to Christine Sarkisian and the leadership of Cooper Union, without whom we couldn't have done this. Once again, thanks to our trustee, Tom Birchard, and his son, Jason, and the team at Veselka for his donated catering of the event. Veselka is an iconic New York and neighborhood institution, well known for its generosity as for its delicious food. Jason and Tom, thank you so very much for your support, which has been going on for a number of years now. Much appreciated. You should all have a copy of tonight's program. We've business to do and then some celebrating to do. First, down to business. Copies of our 2023 financial and membership reports were available at check-in. If you've not received one, copies are still available here, or you can contact us for a digital copy. It is now my pleasure to introduce Justine Leguizamo, our trustee and co-chair of the board's nominating committee, who will present the committee's 2024 report to the membership. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Justine. Village Preservation's nominating committee is entrusted with the task of identifying new members for our Board of Trustees and confirming the continued engagement of current trustees. It is now with great pleasure that I present the slate of trustees recommended by the nominating committee to be voted on by the Village Preservation membership this evening. All Village Preservation members have received a voting paddle. Please hold it up to vote yea or nay when prompted. The trustees being proposed for a renewed 3-year term are as follows: Tom Birchard, Jessica Davis, Art Levin, Trevor Stewart, and Linda Yowell. All in favor, please hold up your voting paddles. Thank you. Opposed? Thank you. All returning trustees have been approved. Congratulations, and thank you to our returning trustees. The nominating committee is also pleased to recommend Christina Keppel and Jessica Dean Schiffer for 3-year terms as new Village Preservation trustees. Christina Keppel, jewelry designer, has served on the Village Preservation Benefit Committee since 2002 and is involved in other local volunteer efforts, including the Bleecker Street Children's Playground, Bedford Barrow and Commerce Block Association, Washington Square Park Conservancy Benefit Committee, and the GO Project. Jessica Dean Schiffer is a construction project executive. She serves on our Preservation Committee and has also been involved in our annual house tour benefit. All in favor, please hold up your voting paddle. Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you. Our new trustees, Christina Keppel and Jessica Dean Schiffer, have been approved. Congratulations and welcome to Village Preservation. On behalf of the trustees and membership of Village Preservation, I would like to thank Dick Blodgett, who recently stepped down from the board for his 10 years of service as trustee to this organization. I also need to extend a special thank you to two long-serving trustees who are not standing for re-election, Marianne Arisman and Judith Stonehill. Judith has been on the board for over 35 years, a period of tremendous growth and change for the organization and the communities we serve. As an author and former bookstore owner, Judith was the driving force behind our 2014 book, Greenwich Village Stories. This book is a love letter to Greenwich Village, written by artists, writers, musicians, restaurateurs, and other neighborhood habitués who each share a favorite memory of this beloved place, and is still available for sale on our website. Judith served as president of the organization for a number of years, along with various other committees and leadership roles. She was also the homeowner and guardian of 131 Charles Street, a beloved and immaculately maintained landmark federal-style home. Marianne Arisman is also one of our longest-serving board members. Over the past 27 years, Marianne has served on countless committees and leadership roles, including president. Her guidance and leadership as chair and co-chair of the nominating committee for the past 10 years has directed a steady selection of passionate villagers to our board of directors. Marianne and her husband Frank continue to maintain their landmarked historic property on St. Luke's Place. Both Judith and Marianne have served as leaders and mentors to a generation of village preservation trustees and staff, and we all owe them a huge debt of gratitude. They will be missed as members of the board, and again, we thank them for their commitment to the organization and the community we serve.
Thank you, Justine, and to our nominating committee for all the work you put into this. And congratulations to our new and returning trustees, and additional thanks to Judith and Marianne, to whom I can't tell you how much I owe them in terms of the advice and everything that they have given me and others. Our Executive Director, Andrew Berman, will now present his annual report. Now in his 23rd year as Executive Director, Andrew is widely acknowledged as a unique, fearless, tireless advocate, dedicated to preserving those qualities which endear our special community to the world. Andrew.
Thank you very much, Trevor. And just as an opener, I also want to extend my gratitude to Marianne and Judith, who really are the definition of a mentor and role models as a trustee and as civic leaders. Thank you again so much for everything you've done for me personally, as well as for the organization and the neighborhood over the past 30 plus years, which is just the tip of the iceberg. Thank you. Speaking of great women of Greenwich Village, I also want to acknowledge Assembly Member Deborah Glick, who's here with us tonight. We're particularly honored by Deborah's presence, as she has been such a fearless fighter for the issues that we care about for many, many decades now, and we so appreciate her fortitude and her allyship on them. So thank you. And now I want to welcome everybody and thank you for joining us tonight as we celebrate 6 inspiring awardees and a year of hard work and accomplishments by Village Preservation. And thank you to all of our trustees. If you could raise your hands. Oh, yep. All of our staff and volunteers, if you can also raise your hands and wave. And to our awards committee members for researching and reviewing hundreds of nominations and making what can only be called the Sophie's Choice of selecting this year's exceptional awardees from scores of compelling nominees. We look forward to honoring many of those worthy nominees not selected tonight in the coming years. But before we do celebrate this year's awardees, I have the privilege of sharing with you some of the highlights of Village Preservation's work this past year. Advocating to help protect our historic buildings, local small businesses, and neighborhood institutions remained at the core of what we do. That sometimes meant fighting citywide and even statewide battles and holding all levels of government accountable to enforce preservation measures and help protect our history. One victory on that front was stopping the misleadingly named Faith-Based Affordable Housing Act, which failed to gain approval in the state legislative session, which just ended. That bill will, yes, let's give that a hand. That bill would have nullified landmarks protections for some of our city's oldest and most historic sites, basically any religious institution, and enabled demolition and new construction for luxury condos, hotels, office space, and other uses. The bill was yes. Boo indeed. That bill was careening towards approval in the legislature thanks to a real estate front group dedicated to stripping landmark and neighborhood zoning protections leading the effort. But then we began our own campaign to expose the bill's true agenda and impact, putting the brakes on what had seemed like its unstoppable momentum. Fortunately, we'd been successful in halting the bill's progress so far. We had more mixed success in Albany with our years-long campaign to prevent the state from removing the 60-year-old cap on how big and how dense one can build new residential developments in New York City. The mayor, the governor, our borough president, and even some of our local city council members lobbied hard for removing the limit entirely, which we adamantly opposed. The state did lift the cap, but at least with some strong limits put in place. Historic districts and sites with artist lofts and affordable housing were excluded. Measures were added to make it harder, but not impossible, to harass tenants out of their homes to make way for the new oversized buildings these new rules would allow. And at least some income and rent restricted units will be required within these new extra-large developments that the law will allow. None of these limitations would have been included without years of staunch advocacy by us, by you, by our allies in the state legislature, and many others. But this was a partial victory at best. And we're now facing a city version of this push for ever bigger, denser developments in our neighborhoods. Mayor Adams' City of Yes proposal. That would allow developers to build bigger, taller luxury condos in our neighborhoods, transfer air rights over broader areas and with less oversight, and build more easily where open space currently exists or is required. Worse, almost all of this would be for very expensive, unaffordable housing of the sort we have plenty of in our city. All based on the premise that building more unaffordable housing will somehow make our city more affordable by trickling down to all New Yorkers. I kid you not. It's this perverse and increasingly widely touted premise underlying so many of these threats we face that Village Preservation has been a leader in debunking. This spring, we issued a report exposing the deep flaws in this claim, that housing prices are high because we're just not building enough housing, no matter how expensive it is, as well as refuting the city's claim that neighborhoods like ours aren't providing enough housing. Instead, we pointed out we have an affordable housing shortage, which won't be helped by building more unaffordable housing. Nor will it help to provide incentives to tear down existing affordable housing or allow it to become unaffordable, as the city has too often done. The city's response to this? To attack us as messengers and claim we're the ones not to be trusted. Even though this is one in a long line of studies we've produced showing how grossly inaccurate the city's claims and predictions regarding zoning and housing have been. That they're attacking us rather than even attempting to provide factual counters to our clearly documented arguments shows just how hollow and baseless their claims really are. Now, similarly, the city attacked us when we demanded that a proposed new development on city-owned land at 388 Hudson Street guarantee that its housing be permanently affordable, which the city has thus far failed to do. We also demanded that the planned 355-foot tall building, the tallest ever proposed in Greenwich Village, be made lower and bulkier to maximize housing while minimizing shadows and impacts on the adjacent J.J. Walker Park and Greenwich Village Historic District. And we don't plan to stop until that's accomplished. Now, speaking of not giving up, yes, speaking of not giving up, seeking landmark designations for unprotected sites was also a high priority for us over the last year, as it has been for our entire existence, during which we've secured landmark designation of more than 1,250 buildings. But doing so has become more and more difficult as Mayor Adams has continued a trend begun under Mayor de Blasio of slowing new landmark designations to less than a trickle. 50 West 13th Street behind me is an example. It's an endangered 1846 house best known as the longtime home of the 13th Street Repertory Theater. We've been waging a campaign to landmark the building since 2020, when longtime co-owner and theater operator Edith O'Hara died. We've been gathering and submitting research about the rich African-American history connected to the home in the 19th century, when our research found that it was owned and occupied by one of the city's most prominent and successful black businessmen and civil rights leaders, Jacob Day. Now, on top of this, Day rented out a room there for 8 years to his friend and prominent black educator and civil rights and suffrage leader, Sarah Smith Tompkins Garnett. We continue to fight for landmark designation for this and other unprotected and endangered sites in our neighborhoods, particularly those that also reflect the underrepresented and historic histories that define our communities. These include the New York Eye and Ear Infirmary, Our Lady of Guadalupe Church, 85th Avenue, Theater 80, and 10 East 14th Street. Yes, Theater 80. As well as our proposed south of Union Square Historic District. We did have one other noteworthy preservation victory this year. After a 25-year struggle, the historic PS 64 Charas Community Center in the East Village was finally wrested from a developer who had acquired it via dubious, at best, process under Mayor Giuliani. The owner had spent the last quarter century trying to destroy the building and ensure it was never returned to its former community use. Since he lost the building in foreclosure this past year, a new owner, yes, a new owner promises to restore it and return it to community use, and has already begun engaging community organizations like ours and so many others to help make that happen. We look forward to seeing this long-neglected historic gem shine once again. And I just want to acknowledge that I know there's quite a few people in this room who've been involved in that battle for 25 years, if not more, and thank you. Now, getting the city to enforce existing landmark and building protections was also an important part of our work. We continued to battle the city to protect historic buildings and residents and to hold perpetrators responsible for destructive work at places like 14 to 18 Gay Street and 16 to 20 Christopher Street, 10 to 14 Fifth Avenue, and 642 to 644 East 14th Street. We called the city out for allowing a developer to destroy the entire rear and interior of 105, 107 Bank Street, the former home of John, Lennon, and Yoko Ono. We pushed back on and demanded adequate oversight for a planned development next door to the Merchants House Museum to ensure that that beloved landmark and cultural institution is not harmed by neighboring construction in any way. And on a more mundane but still important note, we took on illegal signage, lighting, and other intrusions in our neighborhood that detract from its special historic character, pushing city agencies to enforce the law and go after offenders. We also continued to push to have state and federal oversight to prevent oversized, ungainly, and in many cases unnecessary 32-foot-tall 5G towers with video screens installed in historic areas of our neighborhoods. And that's a fight we're certainly going to be carrying over into the year ahead. Now, helping local small businesses was also a big focus of this past year. We're working with 40-year-old local West Village business David's Shoe and Watch Repair at 460 Hudson Street to help convince his landlord to allow him to stay at an affordable rent or to find another space in the neighborhood. This short video will tell you more about David and his store.
I started working here in 1982, 42 years ago. When I came to America, somehow I couldn't get a job. We started from the zero. We started from the scratch.
How much money did you have with you?
Maybe $200. I had 3 children, 3 small children. I had to go to work to support the family, so one of my friends, he opened this shop and he said, come with me, we're gonna work together. Then I started working here. I was so, I would say, proud because I could make money and support my family. And since then, I just kept the shop, that's all it is. If I wouldn't have a shop, I don't know if I would make it. We do repair anything in your house, jewelry, watches, shoes, jackets, handbags, clocks. Customers, not strange people. We feel like we need each other. They can count on me. If something broke, they know I can fix it and they trust me. That's all I can tell. June 30th, my lease is expired. They want to like $8,000, and so I said I cannot handle the $8,000. I'd rather keep the shop as long as I could, but I'm just saying in case if I cannot keep the shop, we will figure it out something else. So that's the story.
And thank you to Mark Celentano for that video. And we're going to continue to do everything we can to try to help David and save that business. And we continue to celebrate longtime local small businesses with our Business of the Month and Small Business Big History programs, and to help support and sustain new local independent businesses with our Welcome to the Neighborhood program. Now, speaking of support and sustenance, In May, we staged our 23rd annual Spring Benefit House Tour, opening 6 incredible private historic homes for the day. The joyous fundraiser was punctuated by a kickoff at the former Gertrude Vanderbilt Whitney Studios at the New York Studio School on McDougal Alley, a village preservation pop-up store at the former Village Cigars on Sheridan Square, and a reception at the new Gray Art Museum on Cooper Square. Thank you to all of you who attended and supported, and I know there's many of you here tonight. The event raised over $200,000 for Village Preservation's educational, advocacy, and programming work. And that programming work has been going like gangbusters over the last year, warranting all of that support. We had a record year staging more than 80 programs, almost all free and open to the public, covering an exciting range of topics and subject areas. At the same time, we reached thousands of young students across the city with our increasingly in-demand children's education program and scores of real estate professionals with our highly rated continuing education program. We also connected with the public in the virtual sphere, too, in increasingly large numbers. This past year, we added several great new donated photo collections to our historic image archive, gave our multimedia interactive art exhibit, Village Voices, a permanent online home, released new oral histories, and digitized and released 2 decades worth of archival material of the Village Independent Democrats. Yes? I will tell you, it felt like it took almost 2 decades to digitize all of that, and we've got 2 more decades to go, but it's well worth it. And to celebrate the 50th anniversary of hip-hop in 2023, we released a story map showing critical sites in Greenwich Village, the East Village, and NoHo connected to the genre's early evolution and development. Yeah? We also unveiled 2 new historic plaques marking the homes of 2 great artists who lived and worked in our neighborhood on what would have been their 100th birthdays, Roy Lichtenstein at 739 Washington Street and Saul Leiter. And here, again through video, is a little snippet of that Saul Leiter plaque unveiling on East 10th Street.
So now, in honor of Saul Leiter, free yourself from your inner thoughts, open your eyes wide, and just look around as if you're seeing the street for the first time. So now, in honor
And as those of you who were there know, it was a truly wonderful event, as was the Lichtenstein unveiling in the fall. So I'm pleased to report that all of this activity and engagement paid off. Our membership support and revenue grew considerably in the past year, as has participation in our advocacy campaigns, which resulted in more than 200,000 messages sent to decision makers about important issues before them. Our email list and social media following grew as well, as did interactions with our website, which reached nearly 1.6 million in the past year. Yes. Leaving us in an even stronger position to take on the many challenges we face. In November, we were also the co-beneficiaries of an incredibly generous, once-in-a-lifetime reunion concert organized by Richard Barone at Carnegie Hall, celebrating the musical history of Greenwich Village and reuniting many of its greats. And we were the grateful recipients this past year of 2 bequests by longtime supporters. Time Magazine and New York Times photo editor Antoinette Melillo, and Margaret Goldman, a longtime resident of West 13th Street. We're incredibly thankful for the generosity they and others have shown in their estate planning, which builds a firm foundation for Village Preservation's future. Now, there's one final item we've worked on this year that I want to share, and until this moment, it's been an entirely well-kept secret, which we're unveiling publicly for the first time ever here tonight. For the last year, we've been working with Christopher Devine and Peacham and Company. Christopher, can you raise your hand? I know there's Christopher. To design and produce a first ever Greenwich Village building set made of genuine Lego bricks. Yes? Now, this will offer a new and exciting way for Village Preservation to reach and delight new audiences and educate and inspire the next generation of preservationists with the fun of Lego blocks. Meticulously detailed and paired with instructions that not only show you how to assemble the set, but offer fascinating glimpses into the iconic structure's histories, these first-of-their-kind sets will be available for sale starting next week on Wednesday, June 19th. Put that in your calendar. Stay tuned for additional details coming this Monday, and be sure to check out our set in the lobby outside the Great Hall after the award ceremony ends. And we are not setting up it until after the award ceremony ends, so you have to wait. Feel free to take some pictures, share, and post on Instagram and elsewhere, tagging Village Preservation. We can't wait for you to be able to purchase a set of your own. So in closing, I want to acknowledge all of our members, you guys, for supporting and making possible everything that we do. We need you now more than ever. We have more to do now than ever. And as you can see, we are doing more now than ever. Thank you for being a part of it.
Thank you, Andrew. Before closing the business part of this evening, I want to recognize the incredible work that Andrew and his amazing team do. I see this every day to preserve and celebrate our wonderful neighborhoods. So thank you on behalf of the trustees of... Thank you on behalf of the trustees of Village Preservation, and thank you on behalf of all our members. With that, the 44th annual meeting of Village Preservation is adjourned. Andrew, the rest of the evening is yours.
Thank you very much for that, Trevor. So it's now my distinct pleasure to kick off the Village Awards section of the evening and to introduce our very esteemed MC, Lenny Kaye. Yes? Lenny is nothing short of a music legend. As a performer, a writer, producer, historian, and of course, guitarist for well over 50 years. He's worked with everyone from Patti Smith to Waylon Jennings, R.E.M. to Allen Ginsberg. A native New Yorker, the neighborhoods of Greenwich Village and the East Village have been foundational to his life and experiences for decades. From meeting Patti Smith while working in a record store on Bleecker Street to some of his earliest formative performances at St. Mark's in the Bowery Church and CBGB. He's also a longtime friend of Village Preservation, having contributed to our book, Greenwich Village Stories, and speaking and performing at our plaque unveiling, marking the former home of the Fillmore East. Please welcome the great Lenny Kaye.
Thank you so much. It's quite an honor to be here. I live in the neighborhood. I've watched the many changes. I try to remember all the ghosts that I see walking around. You know, whenever I pass where the 5-Spot Cafe was, I just think, yeah, this is history. When I go past where Cafe La Mama was, all my favorite bookstores, Gem Spa. We have to hold on to our traditions, and I'd like to thank Andrew and the whole executive board of the Village Preservation Society for the hard work they do, because it's hard. Really. It's so easy to tear down things and so hard to remember what they were there, as important as they were there. So I'm just really happy to stand up and support the cause of historical preservation. Our first award is to the Bus Stop Cafe. Yeah. I have a personal stake in this because for many years I lived at 2 Bethune Street, right above the Bus Stop Cafe's predecessor. And I could smell those hamburgers up on my floor. British geographer Doreen Massey observed that for all the commotion that we hear about the global forces that shape our lives, much of our time is devoted to very local activities, like waiting at a stop for a bus that never comes. I describe it as life is 90% maintenance and 10% creativity. If you're getting on the M11 on Hudson and Bethune Streets, though, that's not so bad at all. You'll be able to do your waiting at the abutting cafe, one of the most charming and welcoming ones in town, the Bus Stop Cafe. One look at its warm interiors or whiff of its freshly prepared dishes is enough to dispel any evocation of exhaust that its name might otherwise conjure. The cafe offers an extensive range of the sort of pan-European selections and derivatives that we think of as American comfort food. Pastas, pancakes, and paninis, bagels, burgers, and BLTs, soups, salads, and sandwiches. Getting hungry. You can find all this and more made to suit your needs, circumstances, and specifications. Do you eat eggplant parms for breakfast and banana walnut pancakes for dinner? Do you prefer your condiments inside, on the side, or poured directly into your mouth? At this No Judgment Cafe, they'll only accommodate your preferences, but make note of them in anticipation of future visits. The animating spirit behind the Bus Stop Cafe is owner Georgia Danalis, a Greek immigrant from the town of Kefalonia. Who, along with her husband, left her tech job at IBM to launch the eatery back in 1995. At the time, Hudson Street was in such disrepair that the restaurant struggled to obtain sidewalk seating permits. Nonetheless, thanks to Georgia's warm hospitality, reasonable pricing, and eagerness to oblige, the cafe soon developed a loyal local following. Much has changed since the cafe's early years. Hudson Street is a far more manicured avenue. The children of early customers have grown and now visit the restaurant with their own children. And the cafe's menu has evolved along with popular tastes. Traditional items like Greek spinach pies now share the space in the menu with locally sourced superfoods and innovative entries like the vegetarian Reuben sandwich. In other more fundamental ways, however, Bus Stop Cafe is reassuringly the same as it ever was, a cozy, friendly, and reliable destination. The quality of the food remains beyond reproach. The staff is happy to accommodate our requests, no matter how peculiar, and Georgia just as likely to get up and talk to everyone as if she were in a different kind of village, her hometown of Kefalonia, of which she says the neighborhood reminds her. She raised 2 daughters here. The staff is loyal and supportive of the owners as they are to them. 2 staff members have worked in Georgia's family businesses for over 40 years, including the manager. Others have for 20 years. Amazingly, during the pandemic, Bus Stop Cafe remained operational, following all pandemic guidelines, continuing the already established takeout service and supply delivery system, and remaining a neighborhood lifeline. For helping us forget that we were even waiting for the M11, and for being a source of warmth, hospitality, community, and great food for 29 years, Village Preservation is thrilled to award the Bus Stop Cafe with the 2024 Village Award. Let's welcome Georgia Danalis and Anastasios Hetziolonidas.
Good evening. This is a deeply honored and grateful to stay here tonight to accept this award for Bus Stop Cafe. We exist because of you. For 30 years, since we opened our doors, we feel your love and support. This award, it belongs to you and to our employees who make this happen. From the bottom of our hearts, we thank you for everything. Bus Stop is a home, and you are an extended family. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Our next award goes to Barbara Kahn. The past is a foreign country, and if you're going to pay a visit, you'll want a good tour guide. You'll want to avoid ones who glorify, sensationalize, or repudiate your destination. You'll want instead someone who will help you experience its lesser-known corners and leave you looking at the world a little differently. Our next award winner is just that type of guide. Playwright cum historian Barbara Kahn has written over 30 historical dramas over the course of a prolific career that also included a number of directorial and acting credits. 24 of those plays have been set in Greenwich Village or the Lower East Side. The work has captivated audiences with extraordinary stories of individuals whose lives intersected with these neighborhoods over the past couple of 100 years. But how and why did Barbara arrive at these stories? Barbara Kahn is the daughter of a former child war refugee and the granddaughter of immigrants on both sides. Obsessed with theater from an early age, Barbara found in playwriting a way to honor the family legacy, and she found in the trauma inherited through this legacy a source of inspiration. Her plays help us think through questions of injustice, not by dramatizing tendacious polemics, but by telling stories about historical situations or lives that have often been distorted or ignored in popular culture. She bases the elements of these stories, whether fictional or not, on meticulous research into all kinds of primary sources. This approach has greatly enriched Barbara's work and offered special insight into her characters' background, voices, and experience. In 1990, she co-founded Sisters on Stage, a lesbian theater collective. Theater for the New City invited Kahn to produce her first work there in 1994, and Kahn has continued to write new work for production there each year since. She's produced plays throughout New York, Paris, London, and is the recipient of multiple awards, including the James R. Quirk Award for the Performing Arts, the Acker Award, the Doric Wilson Independent Playwright Award, and the Torch of Hope Award, honoring lifetime achievement in nonprofit theater. Through Barbara's plays, we've learned about Eve Adams, a radical Polish-Jewish lesbian activist who emigrated to the United States and opened a tea room on MacDougall Street, from which she promoted the work of fledgling artists until being entrapped, convicted on bogus charges, incarcerated, and deported back to Poland, where she was ultimately murdered in a concentration camp. We learned about the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire through her Birds on Fire, which tells the tale of what might have been the lives of 4 unknown victims of the Triangle Factory Fire. And we learned about noteworthy guests of the sadly demolished St. Denis Hotel on Broadway and 10th Street, including Sarah Bernhardt, Marcel Duchamp, Buffalo Bill, and Elizabeth Keckley, the trusted assistant of Abraham Lincoln's widow, who was allowed to stay only in the attic on account of her race. We watch these histories having no alternative with our contemporary eyes, but their distance gives us space to consider how to achieve a more just tomorrow. For providing this profound education while we think we're only being entertained, and using our neighborhood's history as a platform for telling universal tales, it is our pleasure to award Barbara Kahn with the 2024 Village Award.
Thank you. There are a couple of photos there that I wish they hadn't shown me of, like, at 18, when I still had a waist. I want to thank, first of all, Village Preservation, Andrew, the staff, the committees, for this honor that is so meaningful to me. As a theater practitioner, working in theater is a collaborative sport, and there's so many people that really are responsible for my getting this award. Most of all, Crystal Field, who I'm so pleased is here tonight, and Emily from Theater for the New City, and Jenny Voth, who came with her tonight, who's performed some of my work. And the whole staff at Theater for the New City. Crystal really has created a theater family there, and I'm so proud to have been a member of this family for now 30 years. But I also need to thank the performers, the directors and co-directors, in particular Robert Gonzalez Jr., who I worked with for so many years, and Chris Bello most recently, and I hope more often in the future. The crew, the design teams, the choreographers, the composers, the photographers, the videographers, and the audience. The audience is the component that completes a theater project. And also, working in nonprofit theater, we really depend on donors. And I'm so grateful to some of the foundations, LMCC, the Puffin Foundation, which has been a big supporter. but mostly to all of the individual donors who every year answered my letter, which somebody once from a foundation said, don't call it groveling. You're allowing people who maybe are not creative to be creative for once in their lives by collaborating with you. And I thank all of them. I'm also very fortunate to have been part of a very loving family, thanks to my parents, my sisters, my brother, my now nieces and nephews, and I think we just hit the third generation after me, and we're so proud of all of them that they're continuing our family legacy. I want to also thank all of the friends and colleagues who came up tonight, thanks to my invitation, and I thank you so much. And I thank those who could not make it, but who contacted me and offered their good wishes. And finally, I want to talk about, and I don't need the cheat for that, many years ago, there was a moment when I realized that I had been living in New York City for longer than I had lived in the city where I was born and raised. And I was so excited. I thought, well, now I'm really a New Yorker. And I started to tell people, and I mean, I wanted to have a party, but the people seemed confused why I thought this was such a big deal, probably because they were native New Yorkers. So I didn't have that celebration until tonight. And I'm so grateful, so very grateful to Village Preservation for giving me a much better party than I could have managed 30 years ago. But, and also for this honor, for the work that they do, for Andrew for showing up after performances to do a Q&A about village preservation to people who were so fascinated and needed to learn about some of the work. So again, thank you so much for this honor, and thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you. Which way?
This is such a beautiful, heartfelt occasion. It's truly what community is about. And I'd like to thank everybody who's come out and lend their support and lend their energy to making our part of town, downtown, such an important cultural mecca. Our next award winner is the 6th Street Community Center. Yeah, give it up. New York City saw a number of heroic feats in 1978. Reggie Jackson's double homers in Game 6 of the World Series, Superman somehow reversing time by flying around the planet and making it rotate backwards, and 3, a group of single mothers on East 6th Street forming a block association to confront the decrepit conditions of their neighborhood. Only one of those feats has endured the test of time. The memory of Jackson's homers has been buried under countless more recent sports heroics, and Superman's flight had little impact beyond making theoretical physicists scratch their heads. But the 6th Street Block Association grew to become one of the most dynamic, consequential, and forward-thinking neighborhood organizations in New York or anywhere. The 6th Street Community Center. The 6th Street Block Association's goal was straightforward: improve the environmental conditions of the neighborhood and make it a better place for families. But achieving those goals while operating within a historically neglected corner of the city and within a system hell-bent on environmental planetary destruction is anything but straightforward. The group, however, proved resourceful, persistent, and undaunted by the challenge. Through years of organizing and fundraising, it managed to purchase and restore an abandoned historic synagogue and then turn it into the 6th Street Community Center. And this center has since taken countless small steps toward the group's initial goal through programs devoted to environmental advocacy, economic and community development, health, nutrition, food security, and youth and adult education. Yeah. Long before sustainability was cool, the 6th Street Community Center embraced an expansive vision of a sustainable neighborhood as a guiding principle for initiatives that have brought together members of the community, young and old. For example, the center's summer and after-school programs, which are priced according to means, use an arts-based curriculum to encourage social and environmental awareness among children and teens and help cultivate future generations of engaged citizens. Its community-supported agricultural program, which is also priced according to means, partners with sustainable fisheries and farms to bring produce and fish to the neighborhood. Its emergency food distribution efforts serve about 500 families a week and have distributed over 350,000 pounds of fresh food since 2020. And its workshops, many free of charge, cover arts and crafts, health, wellness, and sustainability, among other topics. Yeah. As if these programs were not enough to keep any enterprising community group busy, the 6th Street Community Center has also pursued numerous advocacy campaigns aimed at preserving local communities and increasing local resilience, mobilizing in opposition to nearby upzonings and to the bulldozing of East River Park. Most recently, the group has been organizing to develop a community land trust where development might increase the area's permanent, affordable housing stock, provide additional community space, and launch a food co-op. For its long-standing and ongoing efforts to organize a community and empower it to envision and realize a better future for its neighborhood, we are pleased to honor the 6th Street Community Center with the 2024 Village Award. Please welcome Howard Branstein.
Well, I want to introduce my colleagues here. This is Hennessy Garcia, our climate justice organizer. And this is Ashwin Rastogi, our treasurer of the board of directors. So I think your previous speaker gave a great overview of our community center, so I'll keep my speech to less than an hour. But no, we're actually so honored to receive this award because we so admire the work of village preservation, and we share in your values, not just to save individual historic buildings, of which are incredibly valuable, including 6th Street Community Center, but to preserve and strengthen our communities and to stop the displacement of the people who live here. Right? So we're very much a part of that struggle to oppose the upzonings that Andrew has spoken about, the overdevelopment, and the so-called mayor's city of yes, which we prefer to call it the city of BS. Okay? So, that's right. So to accomplish all that, we're very proud to be part of a growing multi-issue, multi-sector movement to bring some real change to this city. At 6th Street Community Center, no need to repeat what was said, but we start with our young people. Hennessy Garcia is a great young person who's on staff and has been motivating our youth to make the connections between the root causes of climate change and overdevelopment and corporate capitalism gone crazy, okay? So our community land trust is high on our agenda, and through that effort, we will continue to grow our community-supported agriculture project and continue to provide the food, the free meals, and the produce to all those communities, all those folks in need in our communities and citywide. I just want to thank our incredible board of directors and our staff, too numerous to mention, as well as our fantastic fundraising committee who have done so much to help keep our doors open. Thank you. And Ashwin will say a few words.
Thank you so much. We just want to thank all the amazing funding institutions and grants that keep our doors open and our lights on. Among those are the New York Community Trust, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, along with the Cottonwood and Pinkerton Foundations and Mount Sinai School of Medicine. Special thanks also to Harvey Epstein and Michael Hirschhorn for their tireless support for our efforts. And finally, we just want to say thank you to the families, the youth, the seniors of our neighborhood, Lower East Side, and all of the recently arrived and longstanding immigrants, the communities that make that neighborhood so special. It's truly an honor to serve and uplift such a vibrant community, especially alongside organizations such as Cooper Square Committee, EV Loves, and Village Preservation Society. So thank you so much.
I've known the next awardee for close to half a century. She's always been a hoot and a half, I have to say. Penny Arcade. Our next awardee hardly needs an introduction. Susana Carmen Ventura, aka the Queen of the Underground, aka Penny Arcade, is a poet, albeit a singing, dancing, and acting one. She made a splash in the 1980s downtown scene as a performance artist and hasn't stopped since. She has, in addition, worked to document the stories and lives in our neighborhoods and found diverse ways to contribute to the well-being of the community and its members. Susanna arrived in New York City in 1967, where she was one of the many homeless teenagers who had made the pilgrimage to live downtown at the time. Penny's fascination with the theater world brought her into contact with Andy Warhol, the filmmaker and performance artist Jack Smith, and John Vaccaro, founder of the avant-garde Playhouse of the Ridiculous theater group. These artists were creating and defining a world of performance and life that transcended traditional boundaries. Taking a role from her drag mentors, Ventura renamed herself Penny Arcade. Penny began her performance career here in 1968. With the exception of a stint in Spain during the 1970s, this has been her home and the home base of her work for the entirety of her adult life. Her performances drifted from character-based cultural critique to womanhood, nostalgia, sexuality, and much else. She has staged this work in just about all of the classic downtown venues, including La Mama, Theater for the New City, PS 122, and the Village Gate, as well as internationally. In the 1980s and 90s, she sharpened the themes in her work, taking on the culture wars, Jesse Helms' sex work, and women's bodily autonomy. All throughout, she drew upon the Italian traditions of storytelling with which she was raised. In addition to her performance work, Penny has continued to develop an award-winning documentary series, the Lower East Side Biography Project Presents, a community-based media program that equips participants to produce segments on long-term residents of the Lower East Side. This work helps community members develop technical skills in video production and post-production while also preserving stories of the history of the neighborhood and the lives of those within it. Penny's investment in the local community goes beyond her artistic contributions and documentarian efforts. Ever since serving as an end-of-life doula for many during the AIDS crisis, a service she still performs, Penny has found diverse ways to help her neighbors, be they artists in need of financial help or immigrant families in need of assistance. Beyond this work, we would be remiss if we did not mention Penny's steadfast support of village preservation's own endeavors, which often coincide with the preservationist impulse behind her own. For her lifelong efforts in fostering community downtown through her art and service and her trailblazing contributions to performance art and public storytelling, we are pleased to honor Penny Arcade with the 2024 Village Award. And here she is.
Well, it's very gratifying to see so many people here. We always need to have a lot more people here and involved with the Greenwich Village Society for Historical Preservation. It's my great honor. I usually like to host this event and actually was recommending that they give the award to somebody else because so many people do so much. I just want to point out one thing, which is in my show, Longing Lasts Longer, I say there is a gentrification that happens to buildings and neighborhoods, but there is also a gentrification that happens to ideas. And gentrification is the erasure of the alternative. And that is why the work that the historical preservation does is so important. It's not just architectural. We use the word community, but when we say community, we really mean our culture, our values, our way of life. It's very funny to be here with Lenny because I met Lenny in 1969, so we go way back and we go forward, which is quite remarkable. I want to acknowledge Steve Zettner, my collaborator of 33 years. Steve says it feels like 34. You know, we started out doing just what Lenny read, that we, created. Originally, I was approached by public television, public access television. They wanted to up the standard by having artists involved. And I thought, oh, good, I'll teach all the artists my age how to use video, how to make video. They can document their work. They can use video in their work. None of them were interested, like not one person. And so we turned to young people, and we did that for several years, and really Steve spearheaded that. And Steve had the amazing concept of having young people be the shepherds of the histories of these older people who were not just artists. We don't interview just artists. I don't think artists are special, okay? You know, people are special. So I want to just acknowledge that. And I thought that I wanted, you know, basically I'm a poet and I do poets theater, and it's rock and roll theater, and that's what I've done since I was 17 years old. So I thought I would tell it all in this short poem. Like Colette and Frida Kahlo, Valley Mars and Positano, Joan of Arc and Bellatero, well, they took it on themselves. They took it on themselves. They took it and they took it and they took it on themselves. All those ones who was so brave, all the ones who made us safe, they're all rotting in their graves. I gotta take it on myself. Take it on myself. I was 13 when I started, ran away and I departed from that town where I was martyred. See, I took it on myself. I took it on myself. On the city streets I landed, all alone, but soon I banded with lost souls and other holies. We were scared, but we moved boldly. See, we took it on ourselves. We took it on ourselves. We were tough, not hard, not bitter. Life was bleak, so we wore glitter. We were outcasts with grace granted. We were used but empty-handed. We understood that we were stranded, so we took it on ourselves. We took it on ourselves. We took it and we took it and we took it on ourselves. Jackie Curtis and Jack Smith, Candy, Darling, Andrea Whips, Marsha Johnson, Harry Smith, Peter Hujar, Quentin Crisp. They took it, and they took it, and they took it on themselves. They took it on themselves. They took it on themselves. Now the life I live's a myth. Most are dead, and I'm stuck with the ones who appropriate and copy, who want to erase the history, who don't understand the story, not the pain and not the glory, because they never had to take it on themselves. Take it on themselves. Take it on themselves, like George Sand and Cookie Mueller, Emma Goldman and St. Lucie, Jean Reese and Hannah Wilkie. They took it on themselves. They took it on themselves. Here, well, now tonight we are all here. I hope this scene goes on for years. That's the truth and that's the beauty of how we do our duty to ourselves and our community. When you take it on yourselves, you take it on yourself. You take it. You take it. You take it on yourselves. Support village preservation.
Penny Arcade. Once upon a time, most rock stars dressed like John Denver. Their jeans were blue, their jackets baggy, and their shoes supple, and those of their fans even more so. This began to change in the mid-1970s when harsher times called for a harsher style, darker, shinier, harder, tighter, lower. In short, more rock and roll. If we have anyone to thank for helping the style meet the cultural moment, it's trash and vaudeville. Yeah. When black jeans were impossible to come by, they were the ones who started sourcing them from a small local producer. When Doc Martin referred to little more around these parts than perhaps the neighborhood podiatrist, they were carrying Doc Martin's boots and shoes, some of them steel-toed, for customers who meant business. And this was the store that then kept complementing these fashion staples with further essentials, like motorcycle jackets, double eyelet belts, winkle picker boots, leopard print pants, and a variety of spiked and studded leather accessories. Woo-hoo. If you were among those about to rock, you would have wanted to stop by Trash and Vaudeville on your way there. The store was founded in 1975 at 4 St. Mark's Place by Ray Goodman, a one-time adolescent dealer in rock and roll paraphernalia purchased in the East Village and sold back in his high school in Jersey City. Ray was fascinated by the energy of the East Village, which at the time might have just been the rock capital of the world. So he decided to open a store inspired by and in the service of the various alternative scenes that converge there. Before long, excuse me, musicians began finding their way to the store, as did all manner of rocker, mod, punk, rockabilly, and goth. Trash and Vaudeville offered all a means to show off their style and emotional posture. It also featured expert advice on the matter, courtesy of staff members like the late legendary Jimmy Webb. Let's hear it from a high punk rock style icon with a knack for fashion tips with philosophical overtones such as, "It's not rock and roll if your pants don't hurt." Trash and Vaudeville is famous for clothing stars like the Ramones, The Clash, Bruce Springsteen, and Debbie Harry of Blondie. I actually stopped in there myself and got a really tight pair of jeans. Many more musicians and actors during the golden age of punk rock in the 1970s and 80s. Many of today's top musicians and celebrities are still clothed by the store. Trash and Vaudeville thrived at their original location for decades, well past the point when St. Mark's real estate prices started rocking harder than its music. After 40 years of advising customers to wear their pants lower and lighter, Ray felt that he might have to apply that bit of fashion wisdom to his business and find a place with lower rents and tighter dimensions. As it turns out, the decision was made for him when, in 2016, his rent was hiked to $45,000. In response, Ray thumbed his nose at rentier capitalism and left his space and resumed operations just 2 blocks away. And tenants don't get more punk rock than that. For its commitment to the East Village and for its decades-long devotion to rocking everybody out, from actual rock stars to the rock stars that dwell in the hearts of shy adolescents, we are pleased to honor Trash and Vaudeville with the 2024 Village Award. Please welcome Ray Goodman.
Okay. Thank you. Wow. It's amazing, huh? Pretty amazing. Okay. Thank you, Lenny. I really appreciate that coming from you. Thank you. It means a lot. Thank you very much to the Village Preservation Committee, especially to Tom, who I know is pushing hard for me out there. Thank you all for this great honor. It really means a lot to me. I truly love the East Village and the whole Village community. The East Village has been my home and where I've been fortunate enough to have my business for almost 50 years now. Next year, thank you. Thank you. Next year, Trash and Vaudeville will have been in the Village for 50 years. We hit our 50th anniversary. Thank you. I feel very fortunate that I've been able to do something that I really love doing. I've met many of the people that I admire through Trash and Vaudeville and even developed great friendships through Trash and Vaudeville. Some of them are here tonight, including my good friend Marky Ramone and his wife Marion, Lynn Goldsmith. Thank you guys so much. I want to thank all our amazing customers for just being who they are and the continuous support and appreciation they have shared with Trash and Vaudeville throughout all these years. I want to especially thank my beautiful wife, Dang, who is who has been my partner in trash, love, and life. I want to thank my kids, Lucas and Cassie, who are also an important part of trash. I want to thank all my staff, past and present, especially Diane and Diana. Diana has been with me at Trash for over 27 years. Trash in Vaudeville is really a dream come true for me, and I'm just so thankful to my trash family. Thank you so much. Have a great evening, everybody, and let's continue to make the Village the best place to be in New York City. Cheers to this great community, and all the best. Take good care, and keep on rocking. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Stylin'. Our last award of the night is the Regina Kellerman Award. Each year, Village Preservation presents one village awardee with the Regina Kellerman Award, named in honor of Village Preservation's first executive director. Regina was a passionate advocate for historical preservation and community engagement. And this year's awardee, the Washington Square Park Conservancy, fully exemplifies her vision for protecting, celebrating, and enhancing the architectural and cultural heritage of our neighborhoods. The Washington Square Park Conservancy was founded just 10 years ago, almost to the day, and has had a remarkably outsized impact on the park in that relatively short time span, fulfilling their mission of helping to keep Washington Square Park clean, safe, and beautiful. Yeah. During an extensive renovation of the park that commenced in 2007, devoted neighbors wisely anticipated that an organized effort would be needed to upkeep the park going forward. In 2012, the process of establishing the Conservancy began. That initial group made sure the nonprofit organization was ready to spring into action the moment renovations were completed on June 10th, 2014. How fitting that we are now able to honor the Conservancy and all their fantastic achievements exactly a decade later. As has been said many times, Washington Square Park is the heart and lungs of the village. Something like 50,000 people walk through the park on a sunny day. This special landscape, first dedicated as a public park almost 200 years ago, has been host to historic celebrations, memorials, concerts, parades, and countless other community events, large and small. The Washington Square Arch and fountain have undeniably come to symbolize Greenwich Village. The park also has a rich history as a gathering place for people to stand up for what they believe in. The Conservancy, along with New York City's Parks Department, must work extremely hard to ensure that the park remains a centerpiece for freedom of expression, including protests and other gatherings, while also ensuring public safety and simultaneously maintaining the park's historic infrastructure with important services such as graffiti removal. It's an incredibly challenging but absolutely essential balancing act, and it's a cornerstone of their mission and work. The Conservancy has also implemented a volunteer program, Robust, in which people of all ages and diverse backgrounds participate. Their Clean Team helps keep the park clean and beautiful, while Washington Square Wayfarers and Wednesday Weeders help with horticultural tasks, and parktographers take photographs of the park, including many that you're seeing in this presentation. With Washington Square Park Conservancy funding, the number of dedicated Parks Department staff assigned to the park has increased significantly. Gardening staff have now restored 95% of the garden beds in the park, which were previously deteriorating due to a lack of staffing to maintain them. The Conservancy recently added a deputy director position and welcomed new board leadership. And this awards ceremony is a timely opportunity to honor the incredible vision and dedication of both the Conservancy's founding and new generations of leaders and participants. Said the Conservancy's executive director, Will Morrison, quote, "The park is not just a treasured resource for the community, but one of the most famous parks in the city, country, and the world. Today, the Conservancy delivers more free programming and services to the park than ever, joyfully bringing the park to life and ensuring its future while honoring its past. For their impressive dedication and commitment to preserving and celebrating Washington Square Park and guaranteeing that it continues to thrive, we present the Washington Square Park Conservancy with the 2024 Regina Kellerman Village Award. Please welcome Elizabeth Betsy Eli, Veronica Bulgari, Gwen Evans, Quentin Farrar, Kyung Choi Bordes, and Will Morrison.
Sure.
On behalf of our board of members, staff, and all those who work or volunteer in Washington Square Park, thank you, Village Preservation, for this distinguished award. Like many of my age, I remember the village in the 60s and the 70s with a nostalgia for the writers, poets, artists, and musicians who lived here. But I also remember the chaos around the Women's House of Detention, the broken benches, the parched parks, lawns, street littered, few garbage cans, graffiti over all the available surfaces, and threats of a highway going right through Washington Square Park. Signs in car windows said, "This radio has been stolen." Everyone learned to never, ever leave a bike unattended for a minute. We loved living here, but desperately wanted improvements. We formed block associations, joined community boards, school boards, GVSHP, local organizations, and wrote letters. After the latest renovation of Washington Square Park, many of us knew that the city didn't have the capacity to maintain it to the level we thought it deserved. Veronica Bulgari, Gwen Evans, Justine Leguizamo, and I were determined that the lungs and the heart of the village had to be supported. We formed the Conservancy. From then until now, we've worked with the Parks Department to try our best to keep the park clean, safe, and beautiful through augmenting the paid park staff, creating volunteer programs, and fun programs for all ages. COVID was both a challenge for the park and a refuge. Park workers were considered essential and came to work every day. Will Morrison, our indefatigable leader, is both the administration of the park and executive director. What other city agency has been so willing to encourage citizen volunteers? So please join the 50,000 daily users in the park and enjoy. Have I mentioned the horticulture? The park is beautiful. I can go on, but I asked Andrew, and he said 2 minutes, and I think I'm probably over. So you can read all about us online, or just stop in the park and say hello, and please thank any worker or volunteer you see there. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much to all of our wonderful awardees. Thank you to Lenny Kaye for his exemplary job as our MC for tonight. And now the even more fun begins with our reception outside. And of course, the Lego set hopefully should be set up there. Everybody except the trustees who have to join us for a quick meeting back here. So all Village Preservation trustees, please go through that door over there and make a sharp left. And we'll see you all out there soon. And thank you so much and have a good night.
The boys pack cigarettes, still not a party, no one's underage.